So I'm interested to know about this. So anyone for a PJ is the PJs is a para jumper unit or para rescue, which is like one of the, or if not the most elite unit in the Air Force, correct?
If we're being biased, yes.
Right.
Absolutely.
Because I have a good friend who was para rescue. Now, not too long ago, there wasn't many women involved in that. So, I mean, that's a pretty big feat, the fact that you were a medic for and worked alongside, I mean, pararescue or PJs. I mean, that's fucking huge. That must have been, you must have felt pretty good about that, no?
I think I was, like, more scared because I came from, like, more of a, like, forward staging environment.
More scared than, like, what if I fuck up? Am I good enough?
Oh, absolutely. Like, I knew nothing about the PJs, and I didn't know who they were. But a girlfriend of mine was like, hey, this job just posted. You should totally apply for it. You would be perfect for this. And I was like, yeah, okay, whatever. I applied for it, like, not even thinking I was going to get it. And I was like, I screwed up the interview. Like, I was terrible. And then they called back, and they were like, hey, you got the job. Like, and then, of course, you know, all the panic sets in. You're like, fuck, what did I just do, you know? But, I mean, it's been awesome. There aren't very many females, for sure. I mean, in our unit, I think we have, like, maybe 4 or 5.
And were those guys good with, like, helping you and teaching you? And
I think at first everybody kind of, like, opposes change, you know? And so there's always going to be growing pains with that. And, of course, like, I come in and I'm trying to change things to make it work for me.
And did you come in under a new position, or did you replace someone that they had
I replaced someone.
Yeah, so that's tough too.
She replaced Jonesy, dude.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the hard thing.
I know, and you probably replaced a dude who was the size of 2 of us, who was like had like the surgical hands of, like, you know what I mean, like a
big guy, 260 with dainty hands.
Yeah, just like, all right, we're gonna be fine, boys. Made out of metal, just like.
But I had really big shoes that I had to fill because that person had been in that position for almost 10 years.
Oh, wow.
And so, you know, me coming in there as somebody younger and new with not a whole lot of experience trying to change things, you know, yeah, it was really hard at first, but I love my guys. I have the utmost respect for them. And I'm super grateful to actually be able to work with them. It's pretty cool.
And so your deployments were with them?
Yes.
And where were you? You had what, 2, right?
2 deployments, yep.
2.
You were just in Iraq, yeah, right?
Yeah.
Iraq. So, and you just got home?
I did, yeah, like 2 weeks ago.
Welcome home.
Thank you.
So let me ask you a question. You went to Iraq, and, you know, you went to Iraq in January?
Yes.
And then you came home 2 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
What was it like coming back to America post COVID-19?
It was different. You know, the first deployment that I came home from, that one was also very different. But this,
what year was that? The first one?
17.
And both 6 months, 9 months?
4.
4 months. Okay.
Yeah.
16 to 17, and then just those.
And then this last one, yeah. Coming home like this time was way different, just because of the whole COVID thing and everything was closed down, and like you know. Being deployed, you don't really have freedoms as it is, and you eat shitty food and you're around people all the time. So it was nice to be able to have like a little social distancing, so that way you could like gather yourself and try to be alone and get your schedule back to normal and stuff like that. But this one, it was different, and it wasn't different because, oh, you know, this deployment was crazy busy and everything else, and the things that I saw, it wasn't that. It was more of a mental challenge to come back to like such a weird, non-normal environment.
Now, when you get home, is there anything, like when I came home, it was like a guy sat down with you, here's a piece of paper, you experience any of these things, you're good to go, you're cool, bye. What's in place for coming home and like, are you okay? What can we do for you? Do you need help? How, did you experience trauma? But is there things in place now that's kind of like a buffer zone in between I was just in a hostile war zone and now I'm going to friendlies and fucking Woodland Hills?
Yeah, like we do these assessments basically right before you come home, and it's just a questionnaire asking like, hey, how are you feeling?
So it's still just that.
It's still the same thing. I'm very lucky at my unit, though. We have a licensed clinical therapist. So if we need anything, we can always call. And I think that our unit, especially in rescue, like they're starting to understand that preservation of people, whether that's on like the the physical side or the mental side. And I think that's really important to be able to have people have that ability to come and just chat if they're going through something.
How about drug addiction? See a lot of people dealing with that right now? Medication, drugs. I mean, no one was allowed to be on meds when I was in the military, and I feel like it's a thing now.
I feel like that's all they, like the VA does too, is all they do is give out opiates and they just try to mask problems.
Is it becoming an issue? I mean, are people experiencing withdrawals and stuff like that? I mean, have you seen personally people struggling with that kind of thing?
I haven't lately, but previously, so early on, I was able to work with the Army, and we saw that a lot. And we saw coping with pills and being addicted to it, or like always needing sleep meds or always needing muscle relaxers. And then it turned to, oh, we have all these people popping hot for UAs. And, you know, we would have meth, like legit meth, or a bunch of coke and pills and pot, and you just wonder, like, you know, okay, this is a problem. What's going on? You know, not
now,
so.
With working in the hospitals and knowing what the suicide rate is so high, you know, do you what is your experience of dealing with, you know, suicides, overdoses? How has that, you know, affected you, or what's your kind of take on that as a problem?
The easy answer is the system is broken. They're failing their people. And that's my opinion, you know, and that's how I feel about it is, you know, you have people who legitimately need help. People go through shit on a daily basis, and everybody's had a different life. You had a different experience in your Army time. I mean, you've had much different experiences growing up, and same with me, but we all go through shit. We're human. And I don't think that the military, you know, takes all of that into consideration. They're just like, oh, you need to be on antidepressants. Oh, get out of here. Like, we're not going to take care of you because you're too screwed up.
Now, let me ask you this. What can civilians and family members do to educate themselves to be more aware of creating a support system for their loved ones who are active duty?
Education is always going to be the first thing for me, is educating yourself on understanding what depression is, and depression doesn't look the same for every single person. Understanding stress and what people might, you know, what my stress is different than yours. You know, you see me binge eating and you're like, Kayla's stressed out, you know, but if you see me like not eating, you're like, oh, something else is going on, or, you know. You just have to be aware of those key things, and especially if it's your family and coworkers especially too. I mean, if you start to notice, you know, your coworkers withdrawing or something else is going on, you know, intervene and actually have a conversation. And some people, they just don't want to talk about it, but just being a presence and letting that person know.
Yeah,
I mean,
listening rather
why
than
do you
trying
think
to
that?
solve problems.
I feel like that's such a huge thing. I mean, I'm a part of a few veteran things out here, and one thing personally that's helped me is neurofeedback. And they have this program out here that's called, I think it's nationwide actually, and it's called Homecoming for Vets. And if you go to that website, UCLA is part of it, and they offer these people that will do it for free if you're a veteran. And you go, and I mean, it's literally done so much.
Yeah, I've done
it.
Yeah, Shane suggested it to me, and
it's literally for anyone with PTSD, but mainly for why I feel it's beneficial is because it's the least amount of effort for the biggest result. Whereas talk therapy, I have to relive this, I have to do this. This thing is literally, you hook it up, re-regulates your brain waves, and people go, oh my God, I'm not getting shock therapy. You know, so it's like, dude, it's literally nothing. You feel nothing. You watch TV, and weeks go by, and you go, I don't want to murder people. I don't want to kill myself. Weird, you know? But so many guys that I talk to, especially veterans, when I offer this information, when I talk to them, it's like, why do you think it's so tough for military personnel to ask for help or to you know, get vulnerable enough to experience that?
I mean, I think to a degree, and I can't, you know, as a civilian who is the child of a Marine and a combat veteran, there definitely was a culture of the men in my family of it's not okay to be weak. And so it wasn't until, and that carried with me up until my recovery of not, you know, I remember going into recovery, and this guy said, he was like, the most important words you can say is "I don't know" and "I need help," and the three worst words you could say in a row is "I got this," And so I think that's a big, that was my experience of kind of breaking that that lineage of men in my family that refuse to get help. Like, I mean, my dad is like 71 years old and he won't even go to the hospital if he's sick. He's like, yeah, I'm good. Like, I'm like, all right, bro.
I mean, I think that goes back to that when we had that thing about what a man is in the World War II, Vietnam. I mean,
the walk it off. Yeah.
And
rub some dirt on it and walk it off.
And I think that, especially as a civilian trying to get sober, never mind being a veteran, where you're taught that you're better than civilians, like that, like you are the elite human being, at least when I went through infantry school. And then
the expectation is greater.
Yeah, and now it's this thing of like, there's no such thing as weak. There's no such thing as you need help. You are the fucking help, So now it's like I come home and go like, well, how do I ask for help if I'm the help? I'm very confused on how this works. Now I'm going to be weak, or I'm not going to be this fucking soldier of fortune for the rest of my life and all this shit. And it's like,
and then there's also I definitely see for men, there is something unattractive about the pendulum swinging the other way. These like the overly feministic, estrogen dominant males in America, which is like, and all they do is seemingly talk and feeling, and all they do is seemingly, it's like they're not really men of action. They're men of imagination, and fantasy, and so, and that has a lot to do with like, living in the simulation of like living your life on a computer and living your life in a video game,
right?
So it's important to make the distinction that those are not synonymous. You know what I mean? And that, just like maybe those guys could use a gym membership and a hamburger, you could also use some talk therapy and get your emotions out. So, you know what I mean?
Right.
Somewhere in the middle is where we kind of,
medium.
It's like where we kind of, and that's why people need people. That's the thing. That's why this country
Human
is
connection.
great, because we need the ability for people to be on complete opposites of the spectrum, to respect and care about one another, to find middle ground, and so that we all heal. Anyway, that's just I'm gonna start singing "We Are the World."
Yeah.
No, I like, my biggest thing with that is, don't be afraid to ask for help. I've had to ask for help, and it was the hardest, most humbling thing that I've had to do. Because you sit there and you're like, okay, well, I have to be tough, especially because I work with all these dudes who are super tough, and you don't want to be that weak link or whatever, for the team, but if I'm not helping myself, I'm not setting an example for other people as well. And it's okay to get help. I've seen some of the most strongest, courageous dudes ever full on come in, bawling their eyes out, being like, Kayla, I need help. And that's like,
do you find that as an alpha female, that it's easier for men to be that way with you at work?
I don't know necessarily because I'm alpha as well. I think it's just because I get it.
Mm-hmm.
I understand pain, and I understand hurt, and I understand that, people go through different things that maybe they need help with, and I think it's just part of like my compassionate nature that's more understanding as opposed to, oh, I'm alpha.
All right.